Welcome back, everyone. This is the Lundquist Real Estate Podcast. I'm here with Tisha Strickler. She's been here several times before. Say hi to everybody, Tisha.
Hi, everybody.
Today we're going to talk about misconceptions in real estate, things we've heard over the years, some things we found, doing a little research online, but some topics that we think a large portion of the public just, has a misconception about. I think one of them that I hear constantly is that a realtor can sell anyone else's listings. It's not about what company we're associated with versus the sign in the yard. We can sell anything that's on the MLS that's in the state of Indiana. It doesn't matter who listed the property. You can pick your agent and they can show it to you. And a lot of people seem to think that you have to call at least the same company that has the sign in the yard. That just simply isn't. I don't think that's ever been true.
I actually just had this brought up to me this last week. I was at the funeral home and somebody was like, well, there was this house that I wanted to check out, but I had no idea what company that was that had the sign in the yard, so I just didn't even go look at it.
Right.
And I'm like, well, you don't have to call the listing agent that has the sign in the yard. Totally did not know that at all. He was oblivious to the fact that you pick your realtor and that realtor can show you any property in the state of Indiana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, yes, we're licensed in the state of Indiana, but, not to get off subject here, but there are referral agreements for a reason. Realtors, there are referral agreements for a reason. There are certain areas that we just do not work, live, or play in, that I cannot adequately advise in. And we find a professional that works in that area that can best represent the client, and we get a referral agreement. We don't go all the way there and try to fake it and maybe make you choose something that's not the best fit for you. Yes, we can. We just shouldn't. That may be debatable, but it's not in my opinion. It's just, we're here to serve the clients the best we can, and I don't know how you can do that if you know nothing about the area, the region, the neighborhoods, the schools. If all I can do is open the door, I'm not doing my job. But yes, we can show any property anywhere. Doesn't matter the sign, doesn't matter the county. If you want to work with us, if we feel comfortable working in that area, we can help. And any other realtor can do the same.
Well, that kind of rolls into another one of the misconceptions that I was going to throw out there, that all realtors are created equal.
There's specialties within our field. In our area, in our office, there isn't so much. Everybody kind of trains and learns to do all factors. But in a lot of big brokerages, you've got buyer's agents, you've got seller's agents, you've got, agents that specifically do open houses, and and the thing is there's agents that have never done those other pieces. You've got someone who has never done a listing or worked much with a seller. They've always worked with buyers and vice versa. Their expertise is going to be in what they've got the most experience in. Not that they can't do the other. I mean, if it's a family member, a good friend, and you want them to work with you, fine. Hopefully they've got a mentor or a trainer or somebody in their team that can help them when they get into an area that they're just not really experienced in. But no, they're not all created equal. Some of them like to specialize in one versus the other. That person, again, should either seek out advice or refer you to someone else on their team or within their company that specializes in what you need, what you need specifically. So yeah, I mean, the agent that you need to sell your small business is not the same agent that you might need to sell your personal home. And that agent may not be the right person for you to shop in another region of the state for your next home. You might have 3 completely different agents. Maybe you'll have the same one, but you kind of have to feel out what your agent's expertise is and go from there. There isn't a right or wrong in that. It's just who you're working with, what they're comfortable with. Ask them. Ask your agent, put them on the spot and say, you look, you've done great for me in the past when we were looking for a home, but now that I'm ready to sell my business, are you comfortable doing that? What is your plan? How will you market it? And don't be afraid to look elsewhere if he's better fit or she's better fit to sell residential only. So.
And then going kind of back, another misconception or myth that's widely out there in real estate would be that if you do call the name on the sign and use the listing broker, you're going to get a better deal on that house.
No, not necessarily.
Exactly.
I mean, we're supposed to, in dual agency, we're supposed to equally represent both parties. We're supposed to keep certain things confidential between both parties. If we're doing what we're supposed to do ethically, then negotiations should be very, very similar. What kind of deal you can get, the terms you can get. The only thing that might happen in rare scenario, if you're working with a listing agent, is you might get things to make full circle, documents to circulate and things a little quicker. You're not waiting on another person's schedule who's got a full day out of a different office somewhere. But I mean, that in the grand scheme of what you're trying to accomplish with a purchase or a sale, that is a very small convenience if there's someone else out there you'd rather work with. But otherwise it should not have any major bearing on the deal you can get. If it does, was that fair representation to the other side? Whether you're the one that's getting the benefit or not? I mean, even if you're the one that's benefiting from that situation, was it ethical?
Right.
And when you call that same realtor to come help you in the reverse, how's that going to go? Things to think about, It doesn't, and sometimes it's out of everyone's control and things just work out the way they're supposed to work out, but it should not matter.
So, in reading some articles for today's podcast, this one is probably one of my favorites. We talk about this quite a bit because they don't particularly work in Wabash, Indiana. Open houses. Open houses sell houses is the mentality of a lot of people. When I was researching this morning, actually, National Association of Realtors says that only 2% of all houses that are sold via an open house.
Sure. I mean, I think they're way more popular and way more productive in certain areas than others. I mean, it seems like in your bigger cities, you will have buyers who are looking forward to taking the morning off, grabbing a coffee and hitting 3 or 4 open houses and if the market's the way it's been the last few years, with full anticipation of finding what they want and making an offer before the competition beats them to it. These rural, slower areas, that's not really what we see happen ever. I've been doing this for over a decade, and not one market that I've ever worked in rural Indiana have open houses consistently been productive, ever. But I talk to realtors from bigger areas who sell most of their listings at a well-advertised open house. I think it's literally real estate because I feel I'm good at what I do in this region. I would have to completely relearn in another area.
Oh, absolutely.
I think you just have to do and focus on what the buyers in certain regions expect, and what works here doesn't work there, and vice versa. But don't think, if your realtor tells you that open houses, aren't real productive, and you're not really wanting to open your house up to nosy neighbors and anybody else that can also walk in, don't feel like it's something you have to do to sell your home. Unless you're in an area where you see and hear everyone around you constantly going to open houses.
Well, and I can honestly say in my time in real estate, which is 8 years at this point, I have tried, and I've tried thinking outside the box on those open houses. I've moved them to different days of the week versus doing them on the weekends. I've tried a lot of different things for clients on open houses. I have never once had an offer come out of somebody that came to one of the open houses.
I just think it's a regional thing. They're either popular or they're not. And I would advise people to take their realtor's advice on it. You don't want to waste anybody's time. You don't want to stay away from your home all afternoon if there's no reason to. But you don't want a realtor who just simply won't do one in a region where they really work.
I would agree with that. But like you said, take their advice on it. If I look at my clients and I'm like, we absolutely can do an open house. However, it's probably not going to be that effective. If I say that, I mean, it's not going to be effective.
Yeah. And don't be disappointed if that's the result, if you're in a region where they're not real popular.
It's never me not wanting to do the open house, because I love eating cookies and hanging out and meeting new people every day.
It's not a direct indication of where your house is priced or how popular it's going to be. They either work or they don't.
Yeah.
But there is a big misconception based on different regions of how popular they are, how important they are, and nationally they really only produce 2% of the sales. So let's talk about tax assessment.
Yes.
So how many people out there think that whatever their house's tax assessment shows online is their appraisal value?
A lot.
And they're either upset because they think it's way too low or too high, or that it's so much different from the number that their realtor tells them their house is worth.
I just had that happen the other day, actually, John. Assessed value on a tax sheet for a house I'm getting ready to list is $160,000. I am listing the house at almost $360,000.
And what a great deal for the seller to keep their taxes low.
Right.
Why tell on yourself? But it has no direct effect. No buyer that is being educated by an agent is going to tell them, oh, that thing is way overpriced because of the tax assessment value. The tax assessed value is based on the square footage of the home, the improvements that have been done, what the county knows as far as the condition. Now, how long's it been since a tax assessor's ever been invited into your house? Unless you've done a big construction expansion or something like that the assessor can see from the road, they have no idea of home remodel.
They don't come in your house.
Tax assessments are always wrong. I mean, and the lower the better for the homeowner because it keeps the taxes low. But they don't know whether you put that bathroom in or turned that half bath into a full bath or remodeled the kitchen. And it's not the value that they're putting for tax purposes has nothing to do with what your home is worth. That's not even where they're trying to base it. Yes, it floats up and down with assessments and values around the area, but that does not mean that that's what the house should sell for. It doesn't mean that that's all your house is worth. Square footage is a lot of times wrong because how they measure square footage for tax purposes is a little different than what your true living space can be. It's a good baseline to get some just, preliminary information, but it is not, right down to the last square foot or the last dollar accurate for what you're doing when you're trying to market, sell, or buy your home.
And on that note, because a lot of people do look at the tax info sheets, I think another huge misconception is, well, this seller just purchased this house 3 years ago for $55,000, and today they're trying to sell it for $300,000. Are you kidding me? That was a sale price. What are the updates that they've done? What are the market conditions?
Well, that's a pretty big jump. I'd probably look at it a little close too, but I know what you mean. What they bought it for and the circumstances in which they bought it, the condition. Maybe it was grandma's house and the family gave them a good deal. Maybe they only had to buy a third of the actual value out because of inheritance things. Who knows? But there's all kinds of reasons why they paid a certain price for that house, and you need to go look at it. Your realtor needs to pull some comparable sales, evaluate what that house is offering in the market it's offered, and decide what it's worth. That tax assessed value from when they bought it 8 years ago really doesn't matter.
Well, and especially another thing that I've noticed with the market change, just the market change, if no updates were done at all, anything that was sold in 2018 versus where they are reselling it now, it is a huge difference.
Oh, yeah. Well,
the market has changed enormously since 18 to today.
oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that, we do, at least we can track that data. And if it's exactly the same as it was then, the math's pretty simple to see where it should be. But yeah, it's changed fast, and nobody's really keeping up with that.
No.
But so the tax information is useful, but it is a big misconception that dollar amount or that square footage is exactly what these houses are or what they're worth. Consult with your realtor. If you don't have a long-term relationship with that person and you're not fully trusting the information that they give you, there's ways for them to prove it and show you. But do that research. What's another one that you see a lot of the time, Tisha?
For sale by owners, and it's going to save them so much money.
Yeah. Well, there are a few niche markets where the inventory is so low and the home sales, the values are really good, where with social media and all the things we have today, a savvy seller can take good photos, and there are so many buyers wanting that property that they can sell it. And sometimes they get lucky, and sometimes it works out just great. Majority of the time, the data would show that a realtor's advice, a realtor's marketing, the reach that they can give that property gains the sale price far more than the commission.
Well, and I think another portion of that is that seller is just pulling whatever price that they want to out of thin air. And when they're pulling that price out of thin air, a lot of the times it is overpriced. So you don't have the marketing that it doesn't have the marketing that all of the other competition that's out there has, first and foremost. And I think that if it's overpriced, what I've noticed out of buyers at this point is if it's way overpriced and they know it's overpriced, whether it's a for sale by owner or it's in the MLS system, either way, those buyers are backing off and that property's sitting there. Mm-hmm. Well, the next thing you know, that property's been sitting there for 6 months, and now everybody's like, well, what's wrong with that house?
Well, and it doesn't change the value, but even if a seller has it priced correctly, and if this is a cash as is easy sale, it'll go fine.
Absolutely.
But if there's any problems that arise through a home inspection or through a lender or any of those things, you're not going to get the realtor's advice to help you navigate through those things in your best interest for free. And I've had a lot of sellers that have said, oh, I'll never do it again. We tried it once and we had all these problems, and, we didn't know how to handle it. We hired contractors to try to fix it. Buyers were picky or this or that. We ended up crediting way too much money for the repairs just to get it done.
And at the end of the day, if you're not paying a realtor to help you through every step of the process, you have to pay an attorney to do the paperwork anyway.
Or at least go to a title company and spend more money with them. But, it's just for years and years, there are all kinds of ways to show where most of the time you are far better off to have a trusted realtor helping you through the whole process. And most of the time, the realtor is more than paid for in the sale price, most of the time. So, just do some research on that. I mean, there's different skill level. There's some people that can market their own homes and can figure this kind of stuff out, and others that just don't even know where to look. And, I'm not saying it's for everybody. I'm not saying that there's no one out there that can do it. I'm saying most of the time we justify the expense of the commission in the sale price and in the advice.
Absolutely. The negotiating.
Yep.
Another myth. My home doesn't need to be prepared to be sold.
Well, it needs to be prepared for the sale and the showings, and it needs to be prepared in the right ways. We could talk about this for hours,
Absolutely.
honestly, and never run out of stuff to advise. But don't start new projects. Just finish unfinished projects. Have it cleaned up. Have it looking presentable. Don't be there laying on the couch watching your favorite TV show during showings. I mean, we could go on and on and on, but it is just like anything else. That buyer is coming to see this home for the very first time, and that first impression is the lasting impression. And you need someone to advise you on what to do, what not to do, what's important, what's not important, what's too much clutter, all these things. But yes, you will get higher prices for your home if your home is set up and presentable. Now, if you're flipping a house, in certain regions, it's not necessary to stage them. In other regions, it is expected. But if this is a home that's lived in, whether it's a homeowner or a renter or any of the above, the little effort goes a long way on your sale price.
Well, and if you just do it from the very beginning, we tell all of our clients, we're going to know how close we are on this list price. We're going to know the opinion after the first 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And first impressions are everything. Chances are you're not going to get those buyers back. They're going to move on after first impression is
If they loved everything about the home and they just feel it's a little overpriced and you start doing the price reductions, they may circle back through. But if they walked in and got the wrong impression of the home, they're gone.
Yes.
And everybody needs to understand that, hey, we live in these things. But it has to be it just has to be putting its best foot forward if you want top dollar. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So even in a market where we're so short on inventory, that still proves to be the case. They want to negotiate harder. They think less of it if it's just not standing as tall as it
can. A misconception by buyers. I'll go ahead and get pre-approved after I find the home that I want. What do you think about that?
Not in this market. You don't have time.
Nope.
Somebody else that's already pre-approved is going to make that offer before you get everything back from your lender, unless you've got a lender that is literally working till 10 o'clock on Saturday for you. You've got to have that process started. At least started. You don't have to have it completed, but at least started. You got to dig up tax information and different things, employment verification and all kinds of things that you've got to be able to get to your lender before they can approve you. And, if you're out here looking at one of 2 or 3 homes that's in your price range in the area you want to live right now, you need to have that done. Those things last 6 months. Mm-hmm. Get it done ahead of time so you're ready every time. It's very important. Realtors it's not a matter of whether you can look at a house without a pre-approval. It's not a matter of whether we want to spend time to do it or not. That's every realtor's personal, prerogative on the subject, but it truly is important for the timeline. Once you find the one you want to an accepted offer, it's important to have it already done.
And switching gears to sellers, when I'm pricing my home, I need to list it high for negotiations.
So, again, I think it's regionally and it's market driven. Are we in a market where we need to build in the possibility for 3 or 4 price reductions over the course of 6 months of marketing time? Or are we in a market where nothing that's priced right is lasting that long. So we want as much foot traffic as possible and just a little room for negotiating, you know.
I think, and I think right now in today's market where we are sitting, grossly overpricing your home is the kiss of death.
It is.
For that listing.
It is. Absolutely. You want some room to negotiate and still get your best price, but you want it sitting in that price point where it gets the most foot traffic and the most attention as possible. They will just overlook it.
Well, and I'm also seeing if it's close. I mean, if it is not just completely out of the ballpark on the pricing, if it is close, they're going to write the offer anyway.
Sure, they're going to try to negotiate with you. Absolutely. And listen to the feedback. In a market like we're in recently, where we're just completely depleted on listing volume in any price point, they're not near as hesitant to give decent feedback.
No.
And listen to it. I mean, what the consumer is telling you is key. Now, there's some of it that you can just say, okay, that's an oddball one. You know, that's just one. That's too specific for it to be a broad opinion. You can disregard those. But if 8 out of 10 showings all say we love everything about the property, but it doesn't produce any offers, they just don't like the price.
Yep.
And so, you know, as far as, you know, selling homes too, whether or not professional photography is an important thing.
Yes.
You know, when I first started in this business, nobody did professional photography. I mean, we didn't have high-end enough homes in our region to justify it, and nobody expected it.
I hated myself because I'd take like 300 pictures.
Well, the thing is, though, is like a lot of us bought nice cameras. Some of us had tripods. We were trying to take the best photo we could. And we thought we were getting an edge on our competition that didn't put as much effort into it. And then about midway through my career so far, nobody justified even having a nice camera anymore. Those of us who did stood out from the pack a little bit because everybody else was taking them with their cell phones. And
and you've got the agent in the mirror of the bathroom.
It got so bad so fast that the market reacted like a boomerang straight into professional photography. And it became an expectation. And now it absolutely impacts the amount of attention your home's going to get when it hits the market. That first impression before they ever get there that they've already made online. I mean, I feel like it's an expectation, but it absolutely impacts the competition driven to your listing and potentially the sale price.
I'm going to be 100% honest. If I'm looking through the MLS and there is not professional photography done on the listing, unless there is like a ridiculous picture that makes me want to laugh and show everybody, I click off. Like,
yeah,
I don't even continue going through it.
I agree. And you won't see unless it is literally something that is a condemned property that we're basically just pricing for the bare lot kind of thing. You will not see a listing that's not professional in our office. And I would strongly suggest, whether your realtor's throwing that into the listing or asking you to pay for it privately, you get online and look at some of the differences and decide how you want your home to look. You need them. I think it's important. You know, we've got an excellent photographer, comes out, you know, does all the photography work for our company. Most real estate companies have someone.
Well, and the drones, that has become huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but if asked whether that agent likes doing them personally or not, I can't think of a single company who doesn't have at least one or two photographers that they can suggest. This is not something that has to become complicated for the seller.
No.
Just ask for it. The pictures you're looking at and sticking around online the longest looking at, I guarantee are professionally taken.
Absolutely.
So it's a market standard. It is very important for a seller. Buyers like seeing them. It is what it is. But for a seller, It's important.
And it's not even necessarily, okay, maybe the pictures help sell the house, but the pictures get the clients there.
Yeah, they're not misrepresenting the home. I mean, if they are, then you need a different photographer.
Right.
You know, they are to make it look its best, but it should not get you there and then you say, wow, this doesn't look anything like the house.
No.
You know, but you're trying to put that best foot forward every way you can. And people will not make time anymore to go see for themselves on a hunch. They want to see as much as they can online before they make time to actually go see the property in person. And professional photography is worth its weight in gold when it comes to your sale price. So, you got anything else that comes along routinely that we need to kind of clarify or give our perspective on?
I mean, I think honestly, you could go on for days.
Yeah.
With
But
the
there's some heavy hitters that you
misconceptions.
hear all the time.
Yeah. Real estate brokers make tons of money. Tons of money. That's probably one of my favorites.
You don't want to look at what I make annually versus the hours. You don't want to break that down to hourly. But I will say it's like many things. You get what you put in. You get back how much you put in. My dad and grandmother, they've been in this business for decades and decades. And the one thing I've heard them say since childhood is 10% of the realtors sell 90% of the real estate.
Absolutely.
And it's not because they're better than everybody else. It's because they just put more time and effort into the profession. If they're better, it's because of experience and hours logged. It's not because of any niche that they have above and beyond anyone else. It's because of how much they put into it. You can make whatever you want to in this business, but it's gonna take your time. It's gonna take your efforts, your creativity, and if it's a part-time thing, then that's the result. But no, we do not make a ton of quote easy money.
No.
The easy ones are what keep us in the industry, and they just come every now and then.
And we beg for them most of the time.
The rest of them, there's a lot that goes into it. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes. I think anyone making a living in real estate is working hard for it.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of part-time agents. There's a lot of agents that just help friends and family and just kind of look at it like a bonus check or a vacation fund or whatever the case may be. That's fine. I'm not criticizing them in any way. But if you're out here making a actual living within real estate, you are truly working for every dime of it. I would talk to anyone who wants to get into this career, but I'm not gonna lie to them. They're gonna spend a lot of time making the money they make.
Absolutely. A lot.
You have to enjoy what you do to be successful in this career because of the time it takes. It is not just put some pictures online and collect a huge percentage at closing. It is by no means that. So if any of you are interested in a real estate career, we can talk more about the details in private, but it is not easy money.
No.
So hopefully that clears up some misconceptions. If we missed one that you're curious about, ask. We'll be glad to answer it. But thanks for tuning in. See you next time.